Rainer Keenan was the one who taught me how to rip off tinsel ice in the first place, and we were both working for his father. Keep in mind, in the grip of a Chicago summer, ice is gold. I'll say it again, gold. Everyone wants it. Store owners can't get enough of it. They sell it as 8, 16, and 25-pound bags. They use it for self-service fountain drink machines, display cases, beer can coolers, and back freezers. And since it costs nothing to make, Old Man Keenan never kept track of how much went out the door or came back on the trucks. Tinsel Ice assumed anything remaining after a run was melt. We drivers would throw an extra half pallet on the truck and sell 80-cent bags for 55. Off the record, cash, no receipt. Or we'd trade broken bags for lunch and liquor. Stores would dump these broken bags into Budweiser coolers they used for individual beer sales. There were lots of variations, and Rainer Keenan came up with all sorts of schemes. I remember when I first arrived on the northwest coast of Antarctica. I met Rainer, dropped off my things at Rainer's base camp, and immediately he took me out to see the mines where, to my surprise, I found myself surrounded by an unusual number of large African men. African as in from Africa. Men who'd been born dark and had spent every day thereafter half naked under a sweltering sun. They moved about like the mines were an ant colony, and each man an ant, lifting and carrying many times more weight than you'd guess possible, judging by the slenderness of their frames. Even with their spacesuits on, these African guys looked skinny. "Yeah, I know," Rainer said, as I stared at their skinniness. "We're going to have to order you a specially made suit." He looked up at me, smacking my shoulder a few times. "Quadruple extra large for those puppies. How goddamn tall are you anyway?" I just stared back blankly, wondering how all this worked. The thing was, those African ants in that Antarctic ant colony, they were Rainer's competitive advantage. The reason why he could render so many times more profit from the ice and rock than even the privately run corporate overseen mining franchises could. How he turned ice into gold, and platinum, and silver, and copper, and nickel. Most of the mining franchises were organized as student co-ops, similar to the kind that used to offer students entrepreneurial experience and big money for painting houses in the summer. After working for himself as a miner for one of these student co-ops for just 1 month, Rainer had determined that he'd been limiting his prospects. But then he'd gotten a hold of the management company's financial records, and to his surprise, they hadn't been ripping off the student miners quite as much as he'd thought. In fact, student salaries represented the largest portion of the company's costs. And so, Rainer had set about researching cheap labor, which led him to Burkina Faso, Africa's poorest nation. After my tour of the mines, Rainer led me back to the base camp. "Hey, don't point your finger," Rainer said, "like I'm the asshole down here." He grabbed us beers from behind the self-service bar in the base camp's lounge. "You should see the nuns out there in Africa, practically dangling a Bible in front of these poor starving people and saying, 'Accept Jesus into your hearts and we'll deliver this milk and bread into your bellies.' Not me, though. No, I went up there offering a way out." Rainer had gone up to Burkina Faso as an English teacher, an employee of an NGO, he told me, or non-government organization. But during his 6 months in Africa, the only English words Rainer taught the Burkinabés were words like gold and platinum and silver and nickel and neutron laser drill. Essential words to any African's vocabulary. Rainer also gave free seminars on mineral exploration. He handed out pamphlets, sign-up forms, indemnity waivers. If he thought someone was too young, permission slips. Not that he taught them words like indemnity or permission. When I asked Rainer how he'd gotten a bunch of Africans to go work in, of all places, Antarctica, the exact opposite of their natural habitat, he said it was simple. "Technically, Antarctica's the world's largest desert," he said. "It never rains." "What, is that what you told them?" I asked. "That they were going to a desert?" "It is, isn't it?" "Hey, shut up. You don't know, man. This is still 1,000 times better than where they would be going. Do you have the slightest idea how many Burkinabés get slaughtered each year in the Congo or Ivory Coast?" I didn't. "Migrant workers, like 800,000 of them. They go there for work, and the locals hack them to pieces with machetes." Rainer demonstrated this hacking with invisible machetes on invisible Africans. "I'm still paying them a lot of money here, relatively speaking. Plus, there's no diseases or droughts. They'll never run out of water." That, at least, was true. Trapped within its ice sheath, Antarctica contained over 70% of the world's freshwater supply. Not bad for the world's largest desert. Or beer, Rayner added, raising his bottle and clinking it against mine in what seemed like the first of many cheerful toasts. And after the cold rush peters out, they'll go back to their little huts or whatever as the richest men in town. They'll grow fat and old, never have to worry about money again, let alone machetes. The beer part was also true. We'd never run out of liquor. Rayner made sure. But for various reasons, Rayner and I wouldn't go back to being the underage drinking buddies we'd once been. That wasn't the first of many cheerful toasts. And by the time the cold rush ended, after the Great Discovery, after the U.S. government's intervention and the emergency evacuation, well, our little base camp would only send back 3 of our 40 Berkana Bays alive.